Our leaders are but trusted servants. They do not govern.
Bob, I put my hands on the steering wheel, like try to force something. I ironically just wind up fucking it up, but the more I can just go kind of flow like water, things seem to work out a lot better.
The second tradition is actually practical. It's not just trying to force me to be nice. Look at Cole Shiflet. You're never going to get there. There is a universe here that I could get on my team if I'll just stop trying to control this little thing. Hey there, and welcome to the Recovery Crew here at Deep Waters. I'm Dr. Bob Beare, the recovery and trauma guy. This week we are welcoming back Alan Jones to have a conversation about Tradition 2, which is really about leadership and letting go of leadership and democracy, and really some of it's at the root of why Alcoholics Anonymous and other 12-step groups have survived for almost a century. It has to do with the traditions that they're committed to. One of them is that there is no ultimate authority, although the group conscience is the authority, and that there's a higher power involved in the decisions of the group. Not a bad idea, huh? All right, so we're glad you're with us today. We're going to talk about that. And remember, Deep Waters Recovery is about recover, heal, launch. That's what we're up to. We want to help folks launch into the life that they've that's authentic for them, that is their birthright. Glad you're with us. You're in the deep waters now. Well, look at this. Here we are again with a week later, or is it just a few minutes later? I don't know. Depends on when you're listening to this, but I have Cole Shiflet and Alan Jones here. Hello, gentlemen.
Hey, Bob.
Hey, Dr. Bob. Hey, Alan.
Hey, Cole.
Cole Shiflet is the director of Solstice Recovery. Alan Jones is the director of clinical services at Actions Wellness Group. And I'm glad to have you both here because we're going to have a little conversation about the second tradition. For folks who are not in 12-step recovery, it may seem a little oddball or whatever. Who cares, right? But these traditions, just think about this for a minute. The Alcoholics Anonymous has been around since 1935. All these years, how many organizations do we know that have survived? And one of the reasons is because of the traditions. Sometimes there's a section of the text that's called How It Works. And often people refer to the traditions. There's 12 traditions, and we're going to be on the second tradition today. They refer to the traditions as why it works, right? And mostly because one of the things about it is it's truly democratic. We don't have a democracy. We think we live in a democracy here. No, we live in a republic it's not even a full republic. But 12-step recovery is set up in a way where it really is run in everybody has a voice. Also, if you don't like the group, you can grab your coffee pot and your resentment and go create another group. So.
And a lot of places have. Yeah.
And that's why there's thousands of groups around the world, and each group gets to make their own rules. And you don't like the rules, you can go across the street and with your coffee pot and your resentment start a new group. So anyway, we are, just so everybody knows, you're on the recovery crew here at Deep Waters. You can go to the website, deepwatersrecovery.com, and we'll get the information for Solstice and Action Wellness Group at the end of this, so everybody will know how to make contact. But let me just read Tradition 2. This is how it reads. For our group purpose, there's but one ultimate authority, a loving God, as is expressed in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants. They do not govern. Now, one of the misnomers, people have misread that and said there are no leaders. That's not true. We have leaders, but they don't govern. There's a story in the 12 and 12, which is another one of the texts that we use in the rooms, about a huge eruption that happened in a meeting, and they called a group conscience during the meeting and they were able to vote during the meeting about the order of how people were going to share, right? It seems a little like picky or whatever, but there is a mechanism so that everybody's voice gets heard. And that's not true in every organization. So one of the things the reason I wanted to have this conversation with Alan Jones and Cole Shiflet is because you guys are a couple of guys with really good recovery. You've been in those rooms a lot. You've watched it work. You watch what doesn't work. And we are also in the industry of 12-step recovery. See, that was a Freudian slip right there. We are in the industry, the addiction industry. We're not in the 12. There is no 12-step industry, right? And so it's a tricky balance. How do I live my recovery according to the 12? And there's another part of my world that has 12-step recovery in it, but it's also a business. So these are wonderful paradox for us to kind of chew on. So I'm just going to shut up for a minute and listen to you guys, your thoughts on tradition 2.
Man, I'll tell you, you're right when you say that this is one of the few organizations for me that has managed to stick around for as long as it has. And that was something that was never really lost on me personally. And so bringing this sort of tradition into not just my life, but also my business has helped sort of maintain my longevity, if you will. And I really dove into this sort of work pretty early on. I was luckily enough, I was forced to do work around the traditions as well. And so I think that's really helped me in bringing what this tradition means into my business and my life as well.
What do you mean by that, Alan? That you were forced to work around the traditions and the business, so to say?
So like as it was stated earlier, the 12 steps is sort of how the process of getting sober works, but the 12 traditions are why it works, and so I needed to understand that concept.
Yeah.
Part of my addiction is, I need to know why. Why do you want me doing this? Why do you want me doing that? Why do I have to do that? Like, you mean to tell me I've got to go to a meeting every day? Why do I have to do these things? And this is, the young man that got a hold of me, he said, this is why right here. And so, I want to always be able to bring my ideas to the table. I want to be heard. And so if I want to be heard, I have to be willing to hear others.
Yeah.
And that's what sort of this walks me down automatically.
Yeah. But one ultimate authority, a loving God. And if anybody's listening to this and they're an atheist or get butthurt by the phrase God, which I do a little bit sometimes, it's like, what the hell are they talking about? But this, whatever there's some energy in the universe that is kind, maybe, right? Whatever that thing is, if I can possibly allow that energy to run my business, to run my relationships, if I can let go, peel my dead fingers off of the control of things, my experience is I have a much more success. My little brain can only work on about 0.001% of consciousness. I really, that phrase, a loving God as he may express himself in our group conscience, is a really good plan for my life, not just how to run a good 12-step meeting, I think that's how you run Solstice out there, Cole.
There's some there's three crazy words that are together in that same sentence. We talk about like leaders, but that they're servants, and they do not govern. I mean, that is an interesting mix, for those words. And it's, like I said, and you guys both, it certainly is the way that this entity has survived as long as it has. And it's been very imperfect on there because it's tough to find that balance. I know that you guys have seen this, and in recovery, you can have personalities that can get dominant and all that, but at the end of the day, they're eventually able to check themselves, or the group conscious kind of checks themselves to where it does remain, democratic and under the, other traditions that it work with in terms of singleness of purpose, and things like that. It is we start to get into like when working in this industry. I'm not a big fan of that word, but it is an industry, working on it and how to balance that as well, in there, because you do have to find, that balance. And it is difficult. For me, it's been, I've certainly tried to incorporate it in every area of my life, work, my family life and all that. And it has done nothing but breed success in the way that I would define success, which is enjoying more good days, than bad days. And, hell, us three are all still here after doing this a stretch and working in this industry. But I have to find that balance to keep it in there, because like you were talking about, Bob, I put my hands on the steering wheel, or I want to, exert myself and like try to force something. I ironically just wind up fucking it up,
Yeah.
But the more I can just go kind of flow like water, things seem to work out a lot better personally and professionally.
I haven't necessarily stopped trying to control shit. But I didn't it didn't magically get removed.
I said trying.
There is
trying
one, but I can notice it more when I can feel my chest and my, sometimes I even catch myself, I feel it in my body trying to control things. And actually that's a trauma response, but that's for another podcast probably. But, within an organization and within a relationship, if I can just take a breath and try, it's like, Emmett Fox. You guys know about Emmett Fox, and he has a little pamphlet called The Golden Key, which if I can just get my mind off of the shit that I think I need to control and onto something a little more transcendent, just for a moment, it's a trick. When I turn my brain back to the problem, sometimes the problem is gone. Like magic.
I haven't read that one. I got to check that one out. I love Emmett Fox, Sherman on the Mountain, and all that stuff, but I haven't read that particular little.
Yeah, The Golden Key. The Golden Key is very simple. Get your mind off of the shit and get it onto God, or whatever language you want to use to describe the nature of the universe. And when you turn back, I mean, it's a little bit like yoga's a trick too, just to get me out of meditation is a trick to get me out of this thing. Like Alan was talking about on the last podcast. I don't want to shame my intellect. I'm smart. It's okay. Right. But it's not the whole thing.
Yeah. And I think, for me, really doing the work around these traditions and starting to understand, you're right when you say it's misquoted often when and I did it too, when there's no leaders here. There's no leaders here. And if that's the case, then we've sort of missed the boat. To any great organization, there has to be leaders. But I think great leaders take on 5 different qualities. And this is through delving in and really like Cole touched on, leaders, servants, and govern. There's some truth in that, and these 5 qualities for me make up what I found to be a servant leader, and that is, you have to be able to motivate the people around you, and that starts by getting in the trenches with them. I think you gotta have excellent communication skills. Whereby the biggest barrier we have in any walk of life is communication. I I think you got to be able to create an atmosphere of being able to know your people on a personal level, to make everybody feel important and equally important. I think you have to be able to help your people develop, not just personally, but professionally as well. And that goes with giving them everything you've got and allowing them to be creative. And that leads to the fifth one. And that's encourage that collaboration and that creativity and allow it to come out. And I think if you can do that, the organization as a whole will prosper instead of, sort of flounder and just dissolve.
No wonder my life's a shit show. That sounds like a lot of work, Alan.
It's a ton of work. It's a ton of work, but again, it's progress, not perfection, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I did a formal research study. I did a study on vulnerable leadership. For me, that's the highest level, and that's the thing that is just inherent in 12-step recovery, right? We sit in a meeting, we talk about our dark past, we have the feelings that come with that. And I'm telling you, when somebody hits that pocket of grief, and that, like you did in the last podcast, it's like, I'll follow you anywhere. Are you kidding me? I am
That's the good stuff.
Inspired. To me, vulnerability is I'd put it on that list too.
Well, and
that's like my favorite thing in a meeting is when you hear someone cry, or shed tears, especially when they're caught off guard, like you were in that last podcast. Alan, you started talking about the impact this kid had on you, and you can just see like the humility and the impact, and just by the way you reacted to it. But in meetings, like, you can hear somebody that's talking mechanically through the mind. You can also hear when someone is speaking from the heart in that authentic, voice. And that is the thing that just transcends, in my opinion. My eyes are just glued to that person, and I'm just in awe of the guts, and the beauty that it takes to just get that vulnerable at the end of the journey, when they're just in a million little pieces and they just start speaking that language of the heart. And ironically, it's that imperfect language that gets everybody to relate, to them, and just forces that fellowship and just incubates wellness, basically. Like, in my opinion, that's the best stuff to get, is those vulnerabilities, just that authenticity.
Yeah. And listen, we've got three men here, and two and one sort of trying at times, but we've got three men here who've all started businesses and fairly successful businesses. But listen, along that journey, somebody's got to sign the check at the end of the day, and to that end, I hire people for a reason. I have to be able to let them be a part of, and if my business is going on my ideas alone, and I consider myself a leader in the organization, but if we're going just by what I say, we're going to fold up tomorrow. And
it's practical. The second tradition is actually practical. It's not just trying to force me to be nice. That's not. Look at Cole Shiflet. You're never going to get there. You're never going to get him to be. You can't force him to be nice.
Get him, Bob.
And to pray about it together. It's practical. Think about it. There is a universe here that I could get on my team if I'll just stop trying to control this little thing. Let it go. It's cliche, but let it go. Let it go. Let it go. Anybody got little kids where they have to listen to that song?
Did you see my daughter came up to me in the last podcast, and boy, I'm glad that phase has passed, because she was just nonstop.
Yeah.
Frozen, was that the name of it? Frozen. Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, I wanted to have this little dialogue about the second tradition. I think it's important. And this is a series. If anybody just happens to be catching this one, this is a series, the 12 traditions, and how they apply to the world. That's really want to take it out of this esoteric context of Alcoholics Anonymous, which actually it was developed out of necessity to save lives, right? but the residual effect and the unintended beauty is that it is a pretty good design for life for anybody, you know, and it's also rooted in Dr. Carl Jung's philosophy, which I think maybe 100 years from now, we're going to look back and say, why didn't we listen to that guy? And, you know, Alcoholics Anonymous is the popular expression of his philosophy. Absolutely. Bill W. said it was his work is the foundation stone of Alcoholics Anonymous. So, you know, this is not just some little cult over there with a bunch of alcoholics under the bridge. This is pretty profound shit. And I really appreciate you guys having this little dialogue today. And I don't know, anything else to be said about this tradition?
I think they got it right. I mean, you know, I am only as good as the people that are around me. And as a quote unquote leader, I have to foster that environment and allow people around me to grow into the people that they want to become.
Yeah.
This tradition is part of that. It helps automatically foster that growth. When I get out of my own way and I stop wanting to be the ultimate authority, which I'm clearly not, I allow the people around me to grow and become the vibrant people, and it helps me be just even that much more successful. So I'm grateful for the tradition.
Well, we're all. I want to hear what you're going to say, Cole, but we're all screwed here if our employees hear this.
That's why I got my own company.
What were you going to say, Cole?
I was going to say, you know, same thing along the lines that Alan was expressing, and that's that when I implement that tradition into the business, and again, that's kind of an oxymoron, you know, as well, but it can be done. It creates kind of an environment of wellness. Like I always catch myself when I say, like, somebody asks, like, hey, do you know, say, Charlie Moffat? Like, and I can say, yes, you know, he works for me. And I catch myself, I'm like, hold on, we work together. You know, it's because I don't like that ego piece of, you know, saying it, and that ego piece does not serve an organization well, you know, at all. And it can really get extreme where you have a very, very sick environment. But if it's a we thing, and if it is a unit and everybody there has a voice and a purpose and all that, it creates, again, it incubates a very therapeutic environment. I have more fun. The employees have more fun. The residents have, you know, a better experience. So the way I look at my role to balance that is hey, I do my best to make sure that it stays on a particular course. We kind of operate within these certain parameters. And I wish that there would be more organizations, if you're talking about it, you know, hell, like the crazy state that we're in the world right now, that the people would more kind of give that the credit that it deserves in terms of how helpful, you know. I mean, it's a beautiful thing, but it's difficult because you really got to check your ego, you know, and all that stuff. But it absolutely can be done, and it should be done. You know, you should check your ego on there, and the byproduct of it is amazing.
Yeah. Well, now we could launch into a discussion on humility, and we could say how good we are at knowing about humility. That's a joke. That's a joke. There's a little part of me that it's like I'm talking about servant leadership, and I don't know shit about it. We don't know shit about it, but at least knowing that I don't know shit about it is it's a beginning. And I think we're doing pretty good. I don't need to shame us, but I don't know that much, Alan, about action wellness. Not as much as I do Cole and his lost boys out there. Not lost boys. What are they?
Worst boys.
The worst boys.
The absolute worst boys.
They do this really community-based thing. It's like it's a business, but I think you really are doing a lot of the essence of this tradition out there as much as you can in a business, I think. So thank you.
If I get humble, then I give you permission to do the same, basically, kind of subconsciously. Like, let me undress myself and make it more comfortable for you to undress yours. And sometimes we do that outside of metaphorically. you know, as well. It's a little weird out there.
Well, it's weird is an understatement. It's I'm pretty proud of. I'm a little bit outside the box and inappropriate, and that, but actually, Cole has me beat by a few inches, I think.
I don't know about that.
Now, Alan Jones is very appropriate. Alan Jones is very appropriate, comparatively, probably. But all right, gentlemen, it's been fun hanging with you. Alan, would you let folks know about Action Wellness and how to reach you?
Yeah, thanks. Actions Wellness Group is a group that we do coaching and counseling, interventions, and run a gamut on services. But the way you get a hold of us is www.actionswellness.com, and the phone number is 512-955-4364, and conversations are always free.
Yeah, really good work supporting people in taking the wisdom that they might have gotten in treatment or in the rooms into their everyday life, and in a really focused way. Cool. All right, Cole, tell them about Solstice and how to reach you.
Solstice Recovery is a nonprofit. It's a retreat kind of based center for chronic relapsers who have been, like myself, been through multiple different organizations. And if you kind of fall on your butt again, you just need to get away, you know, for a bit to a safe spot, kind of reestablish footing. We're a good option for that if you meet, you know, certain criteria. We're not for everybody, but we certainly are for some. You can find our contact information and everything on our website, which is solsticerecovery.org. And a lot of times, one thing that I'm very proud of is, you know, people use us as a guidepost where we can point people in the right direction to hook us up with resources such as the ones that y'all offer and all that, because it's important. And so anything that we can do to point people in the right direction, or somebody wants to come hang out with us for a while, or anything they need, look at the website, check us out, and give us a call and let us know how we can help. Nice.
And I will splice in the announcement about Deep Waters right here. And appreciate you guys for being here today. Thanks for everybody for listening to this. Please reach out to us, like, share, subscribe, write nasty things if you want. Apparently that's good press too, having anything, any kind of interaction. But glad to have your participation. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Cole. You're in the deep waters now.